Hello, and welcome to this demo of the Mineralocity Aggregates market analysis tool. My name is Jake with Burgex Inc, and I'll be presenting this demo. This tool is designed to help those in the aggregate industry to figure out where a suitable place may be for acquisition or for developing new quarry within the aggregate market. We have partnered with Products in presenting this tool. The reason of the partnership came as a result of Rock Products previously providing maps for the producers, to which we have now gone in depth and mapped for them and now give the data for them on their new Atlas platform. This is their new aggregate Atlas platform, and what we've done is taken all the producers indicated throughout the U.S. using data such as AmSHA to map these quarries. We've taken the initiative to not just plot them out on their given address or their given latitude and longitude, but actually do the deep dive of figuring out where the quarry location is and ensuring that a point exists over an existing quarry and not put over an office building or out in the middle of the ocean. We have utilized various different satellite imagery to help confirm these locations, as certain satellite imagery may not be up to date with given base maps of different satellite sources. With this tool, you'll be able to get online and be able to zoom in and see these quarries up close and be able to click on these points to pull data regarding these specific quarries. In this case, we clicked on one here in Kansas, which gives you the breakdown in a pop-up window, as you see in the bottom left, that you get the details such as the mine name, the controller, the operator, and the primary product coming from that. And that's just standard data that was normally provided within the Rock Products Atlas that they previously provided and now make visually for you through this online tool. Within just the generic Atlas, we do give a basic search functionality so that you can search by mine name, controller, or operator. As in this case, you can search Vulcan and it highlights all the key operations, whether it be crushed stone or sand and gravel, that fall under Vulcan as the operator. We also, within the Atlas, provide just some additional layers such as railroad, interstates, and highways, just so you can see the network of routes and inputs and outputs of how the material is likely being shipped throughout the region. The initiative of mapping all these producers for Burgex was to help us understand the markets on a wide-based scale. And we have done that not just by mapping these producers, but by pulling in all sorts of data sets that we've been able to enhance and get a better understanding of what the markets look like at a granular level. We pull in data sets such as geology, building permits, population and population forecasts, land usage, incorporated, unincorporated regions, federal land classification, and all sorts of different data. So the first thing to start that what we do differently than just with the standard Atlas with the Mineralocity Aggregates tool is we provide a couple different things. Having set eyes in checking all of these producers, we provide a little bit more details with the producers, as you can see in the bottom left window. One of the first things you'll see that's different is that we provide info as far as whether or not it has a rail or barge loadout. Having set eyes on these, we've been able to make note of that, whereas some of the existing data doesn't take any note of that. The other thing that we have done in networking with various companies and getting better understanding of knowing certain production actuals, we've been able to create a robust formula to help people understand what the estimated production is coming from these different producers throughout the United States. And the data that is normally provided will be in a bucket format, as there are small variances within production with each producer. One of the things we do provide with our tool is an advanced search tool option. This will allow you to search all of the aggregate producers with multi-parameter search. So not only can you just search by my name, controller, or operator, but you can also search by the primary category, such as if is it crushed stone or sand, the specific geology that's coming from it, if it's producing, for example, limestone, dolestone, granite. You'll also be able to search by production estimates and tonnage based off those bucket sizes as previously mentioned. And you'll be able to also search whether or not it has a rail or barge loadout at the facility. And with this being a multi-parameter search, you'll be able to enter in multiple parameters and narrow down your search to a desirable region. This is where we start pulling into account bigger data sets. In this case, we have a general geology layer, which we have given to our geologists that have gone through it and classified it, in this case, for geologic bodies that are favorable towards crushed stone. This is a vector layer on our online tool that you can click on, and as you can see in the pop-up window on the left, it gives you a breakdown of the geologic information of that given body. In this case, this one we've clicked on, for example, has a major geologic type of granite with minor presences of granitorite and quartz monzonite, and some of the age information. One of the unique things we've been able to do as a result of this layer and as a result of doing the deep dive of finding specific quarries with the producers that we have mapped, we are able to extract and better understand what are the unique bodies where actual production is happening. This is kind of more of a ground truth layer for people to get a better focus on, okay, well, what layers maybe we will want to look at for starting a quarry, start doing some geologic evaluation, go get some drill hole testing done. Given the fact that, based on the ground truth, other producers are utilizing this specific body for production. You'll also be able to identify strong correlations with, more densely populated producers, such as the ones in the sand and gravel in the northern portion of Denver. Having mapped all these producers and having joined this producer information to these geologic bodies, you can see here on the left the fields that we have added onto the geology that talk about how many producers are on each body and what production is likely coming from each of those geologic bodies. And this is to help people, again, get a better understanding of maybe where they want to look for key developments that may be pertinent to the market. We also provide just a simple producer scale visual so that people can understand who the big dogs are in the market. In this case, you can see that there are only a few but very strong producers of crushed stone in the Denver region, just neighboring the city. And so whether you are looking to see who the competition is, this helps you to understand who you are likely going to be at competition with for the Denver region. If you are a equipment supplier, this may help you to understand, okay, well, based on the given amount of production that these guys have, which these bubble sizes reflect, we can definitely see that these guys are a much larger operation and we should focus on selling equipment to these specific producers. Or maybe you sell sand and gravel production equipment, and then you can see the more densely populated producers to the north of Denver, and maybe that's where you want to focus your attention. We also, just like in the Atlas, provide infrastructure layers such as railroad, interstates, and highways, again, just so that you can understand the networking and the inputs and outputs of how that production is likely being shipped around. This is our bread and butter layer. Essentially, what we've been able to do as a result of accumulating all this data is basically create a market potential layer where you can look and basically say, this is definitely an area of interest as far as for green site acquisition, a green site exploration for a new quarry, or looking to acquire existing production. And we'll get more into detail in a second. But as a result of being able to pull in general geology, classified for crushed stone, as well as looking at ground truth geology and looking at the producers and their actual locations, and by evaluating estimated surplus and deficit regions based off of population needs, and by looking at population forecasts, as well as unincorporated and incorporated areas, as well as federal land classification, we're able to tie all this data together to help us better understand at a specific point, is it a choice spot for examining for a new quarry or looking to acquire an existing quarry. This layer is called the market potential layer. We call it the grid because technically this layer is a grid-wide based layer across the entire United States consisting of half-mile grid squares. As you can see in the pop-up window on the left, you have estimated supply, estimated demand, and estimated surplus deficit. The way to understand that is basically what we've done is, Burgex has utilized their own market analysis for every half mile across the United States to help better determine what is the estimated supply of a given market from a given point, what is the estimated demand of that given market from that given point, and as a result, what is the estimated surplus deficit as a result. So essentially, to estimate the supply of this given point highlighted in blue, we have a predetermined region that helps us to understand, okay, this is likely the estimated market region that we're looking at. So to estimate demand, we pull into account the population within that given region, utilize regional per capita to determine the tonnage, and reports a demand tonnage. We then look at the estimated supply of the market at this given point by looking at the suppliers within as well as around the given market from this given point, and estimate based off of what we anticipate their distribution to look like to be the overall influence of tonnage of that given market. And then ergo, we get the estimated supply tonnage. As a result of getting a supply tonnage and a demand tonnage, we're able to determine at that given point the market, whether or not it has a surplus or deficit at the given market of that given point. With this, we are able to determine, okay, well, this spot is definitely has a market need for anticipated tonnage and is likely having to extensively ship product in to meet the market demand needs, or the demand is still existing and is not being met. The cool thing about this grid is it doesn't just pull into account market information from our analytics, it also looks at the geology at that given point. So you can see that just like the geology layer, it breaks down the geology as far as what's its major geologic type, what's the age, and some of that other information. The reason why this particular spot is an A+ rating, however, as far as market potential, is because it also ties into account the ground truth variable. So in this case, there's the geologic unit that is shared under this square is being utilized by another producer or multiple producers for existing production. And that adds to be a favorable factor when it comes to geologic evaluation. And so we also make that an important factor in this visual. It will also, in that pop-up window on the left, tie into account federal land classification, whether it's incorporated or unincorporated. So essentially any factor that would discount or make less or more difficult the market potential of starting a quarry there. We also have a 5 and 10-year population forecast with our data provider who's provided us population data for every county. We're able to basically see the last 5 years of population, and with observing what other companies and with what other groups have utilized for population forecast, we've developed our own methodology and formulas for determining what a 5 and 10-year population forecast looks like, given off of the trends over the last 5 to 10 years. And this data, as you can see, is you can click on it. It's a vector layer. In this case, we clicked on Collin County in Texas, and it generated this information as you see on the left. As previously mentioned, by way of how Burgex calculates the market or performs a market analysis, this layer is to basically give the transparency of what does the surplus or deficit look like at the given market level from a specific point. So in this case, as you can see in this orange region here, an analysis was done, and this was again done about every half mile. An analysis was done to determine that at this given point, we have a market region that pulls into account X amount of individuals, and then times that by the certain per capita, gives a certain amount of demand tonnage. We then incorporate the estimated supply of that given market based off of the producers within it, as well as around that given market. And then based off of those distribution patterns, we then pull into account that supply. And as a result, we get that surplus and deficit number. And with having iterated that for every half mile across the United States, we're able to return a surplus or deficit estimate of a given market on a wide scale such as this. So any region or any property or any spot that you look to consider developing a quarry, within the orange layer, the analysis shows that your market of amount of individuals with the anticipated supply still leaves about a 1.8 million ton deficit, where they're still having to ship in extensive material, or they still need that demand to be met. And in this particular instance, as you saw in the previous visuals, there's lots of producers up here. along the western and northern region of Denver, Colorado. So there's still a population down here that still needs demand met. One of the cool things we've been able to do is we've been able to take this same analysis that we've iterated for every half mile and utilize our forecasted population to measure that exact same thing. In this case, what we've done is we've taken the forecast population using still current per capita, since we can't forecast per capita, as well as using current production, since we can't forecast what other producers will be doing in the future. We've been able to basically run the demand as well as the supply, utilizing the forecast population, and basically measure what will the tonnage increase look like within a typical market region. So as you can see, based off of that analysis, if you were to put a quarry out here, by 2025 versus 2020, you'll see another 3 million ton deficit increase on top of the 12 million of northern Denver. So based off of the population growth that is happening in that region, you can anticipate probably around that 3 million tons needed around the market of Denver along the northern portion of it based off of their current developments and with current population trends. This is a bivariate analysis map. It's like the county population map, but it is more granular. Our data provider has given us the most recent and available data per census tract, which is years 2014, 2017, 2019, but it will be updated as more data becomes available. This vector layer, again, is also clickable, and it returns population information. And one of the cool things I like about this layer is that it helps us to understand the transition of and change of population in a given polygon and how the growth is likely happening. We utilize this by observing two different things: the number of people, which is more defined in yellow, and then the ratio of change, or the dramaticism of change, which is pretty much the percent increase or decrease, which as it is dramatically increased in percentage, so if it's 200%, 300%, it's heavier blue. But if it's not as changing time to time, it's definitely less in blue. And I'll actually go ahead and transition to a live version of this so you can see what that looks like. So here you've got your map of our bivariate analysis population per census tract. And to demonstrate this, we're going to look at the region of Houston. So essentially, as you look here, you can see that there is, with this older satellite imagery based off the current levels, you don't see any neighborhoods present. As we zoom in, there's updated imagery up close, and you'll see that neighborhoods all of a sudden fill this polygon here in the darker yellow-brown region. Essentially, the way to interpret this data is, as a result of going from a dramatic change in population and the fact that it's now starting to fill up, it went from a blue state to a darker brown to soon a brighter yellow stage, where it's going to start filling up with people, extensively with people, and then eventually it's just not going to be changing anymore and return to a lighter yellow color. And as you can see, yeah, there's no room for further development in this region. However, if you look in this blue region just west of that, as well as north of it, that new neighborhoods are being put in or are already existing here. So what we can understand from this visual is that we're seeing a large ratio of influx of population growth here, hence why it's really dark blue in this western census tract. And then with this lighter blue one, it's a little bit younger in its transition phase of population influx, but you can see these new neighborhoods that are being put in these various regions of this specific census tract. And again, you can click on this, and this data will return the population data within that tract and reflect the population change over the 5 years. So we've been able to generate this data for the entire United States so that you can actually see those kind of weather map changes as far as how does the population look like it's changing given that time, and where's that demand likely to be needed based off of current population growth. We do also supply some supplementary data sets, such as gross domestic product, GDP, for the last 5 years. And with this, we have it down per county level, and you'll see that we have the 2019 real GDP, thousands of chain dollars, as well as we also show what the current ranking is of that GDP per county out of the given state, and you'll be able to highlight over those columns and see the raw numbers of what the last 5 years have looked like of the GDP dollars, and see the percentage change year over year. We also supply the an S&P ratings and outlooks layer that gives you a extensive breakdown of economic data, such as personal income, U.S. per capita, non-agricultural employment, labor force, as well as extensive breakdown of financial data given per state, and what contributes to the overall outlook of a given region. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of our demonstration. Just a disclaimer that a lot of this data may look a little bit different on the actual tool. Um, Aside from that, a lot of these layers will be updated yearly or more frequently as they become available. Some layers may have underlying data that only gets updated every couple years, and that depends upon the data provider. But with that being said, this tool has been um, very helpful as far as helping people to understand markets, and are very excited to share this product with you.